Good morning. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking, live coffee time. I know there's a little delay. I'm going to give it a minute. Good to see everybody. I'm not doing commentary. I'm reading the comments until we catch up. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Anita, happy Tuesday. Anita's in London, Ontario. Good morning, Mom. You logged on. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Thanks for coming back, everybody. It's been a long break. Kathleen, good morning in Central New Jersey. Penny, good morning in North Carolina. Teresa, good morning in Southwest Ohio. Martha, I missed you at Zoom time. I had something to tell you. I'm going to have to send you an email in Ontario, Canada. Sheila, good morning in Benton City, Washington. Very windy today. Oh, man. You know, we're supposed to be getting a nor'easter up in this part of the world, New England, on Thursday. That could be either rain or snow, mixed bag. We don't know. To be continued. Janice, good morning. Oh no, snowy northern Minnesota. Maybe that's where it's coming from. I thought we were done with this. Linda, good morning. Kirsten, good morning. Thank you so much for your help, Kirsten. It's beautiful in Vermont. The birds are singing at last. Oh, that is nice. Chrissy, I forgot to send you the Jekyll Island thing I have for you. I just found it while I was cleaning up my space. I'm going to send that to you. Good morning, Chrissy. Great to see you. Tara, great to see you. Oakville, Ontario. Suze, hello, welcome back. Crystal, welcome back. Nova Scotia, good to see you. I've been loving the high speed, the speeded up videos, whatever those are called, that you do. They're so cool. I want to know how you do them because they really are so cool. Crystal does these great videos where she records like herself doing her punch thing and the whole project is done before your eyes in like time lapse, right? Time lapse. Very cool. Doreen, good morning. Good to see you. Linda, good to see you. Please give thumbs up, like, share. Anything is great for the video. Julie, good morning in northern Minnesota. Crystal, you know, it's funny that you said that because I just got a non-compliment on this necklace that it looked like something from like a kid's like vending machine, like, you know, when you leave Walmart. But this is actually, I think, quite a nice necklace. I got it at an antique store. It doesn't make it nice, but thank you. Thank you. I try. No snowing rats. Lisa, good morning. Beverly, good morning. Julie, good morning. Tad, good morning. We have a date next week. Finally, we have a date. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with me. I am so sorry. I had a long break last week with the kids being out of school. I felt terribly guilty, and I took some days off. And then yesterday, I was just having one of my terrible days. And I just want to say before we start in, I really appreciate all of the messages that I got. I really appreciate it. I've always appreciated the messages that people send saying, you know, I struggle with depression too, and it's hard and seasonal stuff. And for me, it's always the spring. It's never the winter. And I appreciate every one of the messages. And I didn't write back because I was in a horrible mood, but I appreciated everything. And I cried tons yesterday. It was just an off day. Maybe time for the doctor. But if you also struggle from depression, you know that when you go to the doctor, they give you pills. And when they give you pills, it takes the low lows out of your life, but it also takes away the high highs. And that's why I've been kind of holding on and waiting, because it is a great thing to wake up at 3 in the morning and be very happy you're awake because you just got the best idea. And sometimes being on medication and things takes that away. So I'm going to stick with it, and I'm not leaving you again. I'm here to work, and I'm sorry for the long lapse. Thank you for coming back to me. It was, Sheila, congratulations. And oh my gosh, Sheila, did you win the Woolly Mason jar loot? I totally missed that. I'll have to look it up and see what the prize was, because their prizes are always crazy. Marilyn, hi, good morning. So I don't even know where to begin with. Lynn, good morning. Thank you so much. I don't even know where to begin with where we left off, but I will tell you, this Friday is supposed to be bingo night, and I'm going to try really hard to get my head in that gear so that I have cards ready, for example, late Wednesday, Thursday. Brenda, I loved your idea for bingo night, doing tools of the trade. I was just struggling with whether I would have enough tools of the trade to do that. So I'm kind of still on the fence with, congratulations. I'm still on the fence with the theme. So if you have a great idea for a theme, I was thinking, what about doing a general springtime, welcome springtime, or some kind of a like pagan kind of green man, maypole, British Isles kind of springtime theme, general spring. If you have a rug that fits that criteria, any kind of a springtime rug, and you feel like sending it, that would be super helpful. If you tell me, if you happen to know who the designer is, if it's you, I'll advertise your shop and your work and all of that stuff. But I could use some rugs. If I'm going to put bingo night together for Friday, it's going to have to be quick. So I would love to get some of your beautiful rugs. I love it when we use your rugs. And I will be filming it in the studio here, assuming I can get it done in time using our Wheel of Fortune and getting things back to normal. One of the other things I wanted to say is that the punch needle kits, happy belated Punch Needle Day. It was a great time at the Clock Museum in Bristol, Connecticut. A few people came out. It was lovely to be together and to be outside in the garden and to punch and hook together. And then we had a Zoom later that day, which was also so nice to be together. Um, and the punch needle kits that I put out are selling really well, but I'm about to put out the one that I meant to put out first. And I did the fancier one, the full blast one with the farmer's market set first. But I'm putting out a smaller punch needle set that's more geared for a super, super beginner, like a beginner who doesn't hook or punch, or, kids, grandkids, things like that. I got this great idea. I'm going to have to stand up. I forgot I had this on the table. Ooh. Oh boy, I just undid that whole thing. So I had a brainwave the other night thinking about very simple designs for punch needle kits. And I came back to this rug, right? We've seen this rug. I mean, I have 6 or 8 of these sort of jigsaw pattern, broken glass, cushion pattern rugs. And they were super popular at the beginning of the 20th century, and they're so easy to do. And I had this 3 o'clock in the morning brainwave that what if I put my state, and although I live in Connecticut, I still identify most with being a Rhode Islander because that's where I grew up. What if you put a state in the middle of this mess of shapes and then did the mess of shapes around it? How cool would that be for a beginner to be able to punch something that simple and forgiving? So I started doing it, and I started doing it last night. You can probably tell I've got a lot of my white lines in there, but I've got in the center, this is Rhode Island, just the shape of it, and then around I've only filled in 2 colors so far. But it's going to be a real easy pattern to do. I'm going to put them in the shop later today. These will be kits that include the punch needle, which is the equivalent of a fine. And I have to address comments on my own page that drive me nuts. So this is not a copy of an Amy Oxford needle. This is a different needle that comes from South America. The girl, Maria, who makes these needles is fantastic and lovely and a hard worker, and she publishes a bunch of punch needle magazines in South America. These are not the Amy Oxford copies. The Amy Oxford copies are also wooden handled, not colorful plastic handles, and they don't have any marking on them to say that they're a different brand. Just had to add that because that was winding me up real good. But the kit will come with a punch needle with 2 washers so you can change the height. Again, if you're a beginner, all of those mystifying, bewildering numbers of punch needles refer to the pile. You've got basically a fine needle or a regular needle, which is thicker, wider, takes bulkier yarn, and the needles refer to the height of the pile. So you can go 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, whatever, but it refers to how high your pile becomes. So with these washers, instead of getting a bunch of different needles, you put washers on, and that you successfully change the height without getting multiple needles. So the kit comes with the needle, one of the no-slip hoops, again for beginners, a pattern, and you tell me what state is yours, and I put your state reversed in the middle of it, and then this sort of jigsaw pattern all around it. Super easy. And then the colors for this kit, 15 yards each, except the black and the white. There's more of both of those, but it's a 16 colors set. So I'm going to put these up for 45. Super beginner. If you want to get into punching and you have any sort of reservations about cost, get into it with something like this that's simple. Turn it into, it's a 13-inch sort of diameter circle. So maybe a chair pad or something for the table or something like that. Hey, Liz, good to see you too. Liz is saying Liz planned the thing at the Clock Museum the other day, and I really appreciated that because it was a wonderful get together, and you even handled the food, which was delicious. April, good to see you. And yeah, and Liz had her needle out there, and yeah, they work. Again, this brand, the regular, the equivalent of an Oxford regular, does not work as well. For whatever reason, the tip is not sharp enough or fine enough or shaped the exact right way, and it does not do as well as an Oxford needle will. But these are a lot less expensive. I have them on the website for 12, right? So these are a lot less expensive. But I will say, and I will maintain that that finer size needle for me is as good as anything. I will maintain that because I feel it's a great needle for beginners and it's a good entry point. Now, when we left off last, I guess, Monday or Tuesday, we were talking about Judy Taylor's most recent book, and it's called Breaking the Boundaries. We only sort of dipped into it. The Rug Hooking Artistry of Sharon Johnston. I heard from Sharon Johnston in the meantime, too, which was really nice. You know, we got into this book because I have to look at all of Judy's books because I love Judy and I love the way that she is. I love the way that she works. I love how busy she is in the industry, rug hooking, punch, you know, yarn, everything. The amount of books that she has put out, the amount of work that she's done. It reminds me, these are some of her books. There's more. I've reviewed quite a few of them, but you know, Judy reminds me of the equivalent is when I worked in the theater. You always had this core group of actors who were working actors. They weren't the people who were always, you know, seeking to be like the center of the everything, the center of the world. But they were always working. They were always working hard. They were always committed, devoted in the field. And Judy is that. She is always working on a new project, and it is always something that it sort of improves our quality of life in terms of learning, seeing, knowing, introducing us to someone new or some new technique. And I really appreciate all of these books. This is a giant one, right? Breaking the Boundaries is a giant one. And when we started looking at it last week, we were looking at some of Sharon Johnston's um, early in the book pieces, early in the chronology of the book. We looked at the barn dance, which was one of my favorites, right, just to refresh our memory. And then we were looking at the suffragette page with the ladies with all the funny sort of architectural hats and wearing their sort of strength on their head with the hats and the very tailored suits of that period. She really captures costume and period detail so beautifully. But this book, as it went on, turned out for me to be partly an inspiration book looking at the super, super wide variety of subjects that Sharon has hooked over the years. But beyond being like a gallery of her very varied work, it is also a great book for learning new techniques, completely new techniques. And I think this is the reason that Judy was really turned on to her work, is because she does such different things. This is not traditional rug hooking. This is a crucible filled with ideas from every sort of discipline of art and craft burnt together, and it comes out as these really, really different and unique rugs, each one filled with multiple techniques. So it's a technique book and it's an inspiration book. It's certainly both things. In the introduction, Judy writes that her impetus for starting the book came from a series she did, that Sharon did, called Seasons. So, oh, hey, Karen. Um, yeah, I love reviewing the books because then we know if we like them or not, right? It gives you at least a leg up on whether you should be spending money. Spend money on all of Judy's books. I mean, they're all going to be great and they're so well written. They're academic and they're inspirational. But her impetus was this series called Seasons, and it depicts, of course, the four seasons as experienced through the changing weather. Now, remember, Sharon is Canadian. And Judy says it was beautiful, certainly, but there was something about this series that wouldn't let me go. I kept thinking about those rugs and wondering how she did them in terms of technique. I'm about to show you what they look like. So I'm going to show you the Four Seasons rugs, and you're going to see what we mean. And I want to preface showing you these pictures saying that two of the techniques that Judy shows, which include patterns, pattern ideas and project ideas in the back of the book with full patterns, two of the techniques that Judy shows that she picked up on in terms of surveying Sharon's art are wrapping. I'll show you that in a minute. Wrapping and including that as a motif in the composition, and also uneven edges. Those are two of the techniques that are very uncommon in traditional rug hooking. You feel like you're really looking at a piece of gallery art when you see this kind of approach. So, for example, these are two of the seasons. We've got spring and summer. Spring, and it's really defining visibly like what I mean by uneven. The uneven border, totally breaking the border, right? Doing something of very irregular shape. This isn't a square, this isn't an oval. And you see what I mean by the wrapping. She does this very regularly using a form, often tree trunks or branches or something organic, and she wraps it around. And obviously, it has a very three-dimensional effect and appearance. And at the end of the book, you'll see how it's done because Judy, when she adds projects to the end of the book, she adds projects that really reflect Sharon's work. So she has gone through her work in tremendous detail. Judy said to herself, these are the things that Sharon does that are very, very, very different. And she creates projects based on those devices and techniques that you can also do because she's coaching you with tons of photos how to do these things like the uneven borders and the wrapping. And there's quite a few other things that Sharon does that Judy picks up on and really walks you through. So the book also goes into Sharon's sort of personal world of her studio. It is always so nice to see how people work, what their studio is like, what kinds of things they collect as they go along. The perspective is incredible, Tad. Um, yeah, when we were saying, remember last time when we were talking about this book, Judy also picked up on, or maybe it was Elizabeth in the introduction, maybe it was the foreword, on the fact that some of these compositions of Sharon's, in place of using perspective, in other words, like a fine art point on the horizon that everything works off of, in place of that, she often uses height and stacks or layers parts of the composition, and that assumes or pre-assumes that your eye will read height as distance, just like medieval painters did and Persian painters do. So all of those ideas, these big overarching ideas, are in this book. So there's more than just pictures of her studio and pictures of her pieces, the kinds of things she collects. Shows you this is her Gandalf, as in Lord of the Rings Gandalf. Picture that she's just starting her pattern, and it shows you her process for laying out her wools and her yarns. That's always super, super helpful to see how other people do that. It's always going to be a work in progress, isn't it? When you lay out all your stuff, it looks great and it ends up evolving anyway. But it's nice to know what other people's processes are. This is a great quote. Judy writes at the beginning of the book. Judy talks about taking a class in free form crochet. And she says, if you haven't heard of this craft, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. And she says, one of the reasons she loved taking this class is that using crochet or knitting stitches, you wander about creating odd shapes that are called scrumbles, which you then connect together in an infinite variety of possibilities, combinations, designs. So with this idea, she felt that in taking this free form crochet class, she was given some kind of get out of jail free card, no rules at all. And she says, quote, can I use two different colors of yarn at the same time? Yes, you can. Can I use ribbon or can I use lace? Yes, you can. Can I create three-dimensional effects? And she says, say it with me this time, yes, you can. And she said that class really showed her that taking the no rules, thank you, method approach really, really opens up every barrier, speed bump. It just wide open blank canvas for you. And you should be able to apply that sort of philosophy to approaching your punching your rug hooking too. And this is Judy. This is Judy all over. So I'm not surprised that she loved this freeform crochet class, and I'm not surprised that she loves Sharon's work. She says, that's how I feel about Sharon Johnston's work. It's totally liberating. There are a few rules, and nobody can tell you what's right or wrong, but you are the master of your own creation. So with that in mind, that's like the third page of the book. With that in mind, we see a lot of Sharon's work in this book. For example, this piece here, she's using roving, and she's clipping roving to look like, dandelion fluff. The question keeps coming up again and hi, Ralda, keeps coming up again and again on, the Facebook pages. Can I use roving? Absolutely, you can use roving. And you could even clip the roving, like Sharon did in that composition with the dandelions. It will give you a completely different effect than pulling loops. Something like this is so different too. This is another classic Sharon doing something different. You see the very wide hooking strips that she's done, and then she's almost done a needlepoint, approach to the hooking at the bottom. Another thing that Sharon does a lot of that Judy points out in this book is reverse hooking. In other words, flipping it over, hooking in reverse. So you're not getting the tall loops, you're getting the flat loops, the back of them. And in moments like that, you get great designs like a basket weave, right? Because you're not looking at a very plush, fat loop on top. You're just looking at the back of it for the shape or the structure. And beyond that, with all of these different cuts she's got in the basket, if you can see from this photo, she hasn't filled the background with loops. She's painted the background with acrylic paint. So in place of filling in the background, she's used a different medium altogether. She's painted the, whatever it is, canvas backing. I don't mean canvas. I think I mean linen or burlap. I'm not sure. It might be monk's cloth. But another idea that you rarely see people combining fine art materials with rug hooking materials. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to combine paint and fiber art, right? It looks great. She also does stuff like this. Sharon's work is very focused on the elements and the natural world. And in this picture of water, she's actually used for the running water, she's used like grocery bags, plastic grocery bags. We're seeing them less and less happily, but she's used these plastic grocery bags. And I know that you've heard of people hooking with grocery bags and garbage bags and all that kind of thing. It's entirely possible. We were hooking a couple months ago in this group with candy wrappers. You can hook with basically anything, right? Cellophane, balloons, anything. But it's curious and interesting to see how the hooking comes out when you're using a very non-traditional fiber. It's not even a fiber, is it? It's plastic. And then she's got great designs like this. The only reason I bookmarked this page, it's an amazing book, Ralda, it really is it's a sort of, it's a copyright-free Dover design, right? It's an Asian-inspired koi pond, something like that. But the only reason I wanted to show you that was because I want to remind you, I saw some copyright questions in the last couple of days on the sites again. I just want to remind you that that series of Dover books, the clip art books, particularly the older ones, they are copyright-free images. This is one of them. And she says right out, it's the centerfish from Dover Chinese Designs. That's the name of that book. So next time you go to a bookstore, you're fooling around on eBay or Abe or Amazon or whatever, be thinking about that. If you're looking for designs that you can use, motifs that you can use without anybody else on Facebook saying anything to you, you can always go to those Dover books. She does this great composition too that is a real mixed media affair. It's called Knitting for the Troops. Assorted fabrics, yarns, ribbon, a photo printed on fabric. I know quilters know this technique well. Real knitting attached in place. Let me show you the image. So this is, I think, the person was, I think it was a photo of Sharon's father-in-law in the First World War. This is the piece this is the piece I'm talking about. So this has been an image of the father-in-law transferred onto fabric. So this is more like a quilting applique technique. And certainly the border, which is fabric, right? Again, quilters will recognize this right away. That's a great way to put a border on something, right? You don't have to worry about whipping or flipping and sort of stay stitching or any of the more complicated rug hooking finishing techniques we have. You can just put a border on it like it's a quilt. Now she has done quite a bit of hooking, but she's also done quite a bit with the sweater that she just literally knitted aside and stitched into place. So, and then you can see the girl's hair is more like crewel or Bargello type long stitch, right? A needlepoint long stitch. So there's quite a few techniques in this one piece. And that's one of the things that makes this book so interesting is it's a feast for the eyes kind of a thing. Whether you like the pieces or not is immaterial. You're learning techniques. And to see somebody using this many techniques in every piece is, as Judy says, very liberating. Now, there's a whole chapter devoted to Of a Common Thread. If you remember from the last episode, there was an exhibit in Canada about women who had come, all the different places that they'd come from to live in Canada over the many years. And this is just sort of a snapshot of these portraits that she did. And Sharon makes the point that these are quite small. These are like largest measurement 12 inches. And Sharon has got a remarkable amount of detail. Talk about shading and just picking out a few points in each face. I do too, Martha. The mixed fabric is the best. It is like multimedia work of art. But this is quite fine detail for small pieces. There's quite a lot of detail in here. And for people who are always sort of struggling, particularly with faces and shading, it's great to look at somebody who's this much of a master at shading. Just a few lines, just a few loops in the right place is enough to give you definition and to give you personality. So then it's like another 70, 100 pages of projects that you just won't believe. They're beautiful. And then three-dimensional stuff like this that I thought was interesting. Making blocks. You know, you see this sometimes in like folk art shops and stuff. She wrote teehee and she wrote rug. You could write anything on your blocks. And they're actually using, Sharon was using, and then Judy, because Judy did this project to show you how it's done, these sort of, now what are those called? Those plastic things that people, plastic canvas, right? She's using those as a base, not for the hooking part, but for the shape underneath it after you sew the thing together. She's showing you simple projects like that that you can get the materials from your local box craft store kind of a thing. Ivy the sheep. These are, again, projects at the end that Judy created that are inspired by Sharon's work. She's an amazing artist. So Judy gives you a bunch of things at the end, and as usual, Judy's super forthcoming with giving you the patterns, so she sets you up for success instead of failure. She shows you exactly what you need to do to get these projects done. So basically, the last third of the book is projects that you can do that are inspired by Sharon's many styles and techniques. Again, this is plastic canvas that's going to be used as three-dimensional legs for Ivy the sheep. Lots of nice ones. And then trickier ones. Project number 3 is Mischief. This dog is Mischief. He's like a parallelogram, right? It's not an optical illusion. It's actually the shape of the dog. This is, again, a project that Judy did that's inspired by Sharon's work. And she's giving you the pattern. She's showing you step by step how to do it. And it includes techniques that Sharon uses regularly, particularly interesting, trapunto, right? We talked about that in the last episode. Sort of padding the back of some parts, sewing in between the loops and padding the back so that parts of the composition jump forward. That's trapunto. And beyond that, she talks about the way that Sharon finishes her work, which is also really unique. She often wraps her finished work around foam board. Again, another craft store item, foam board right here. And then she will use a t-shirt to stretch along the back. Now, what a great way to finish, because you've got a finished rug, right? And Judy's going to show you this in great detail. She's giving you a finished rug that you're tucking in the sides, and then you're literally slip stitching it together with a piece of t-shirt that wraps around the foam board that will be very accommodating and stretch right over it seamlessly and perfectly. So a great original idea for finishing something, and you've already got it ready to hang. You're just adding a hanger to the back of the foam board, and it's ready to go up. So there are just tons of techniques in here that I've never seen before. This is another example of the trapunto face. It's hard to see in the photo, but the face is quite lifted up. It's padded and raised up for a very three-dimensional effect, and again, the uneven edges. So returning to these same techniques, and then she's going to show you, of course, the wrapping, how the wrapping is done with the trees, because that's really something I've never seen done before. That's something that I think Sharon really owns. She has done an amazing amount of work with wrapping, three-dimensional wrapping, and Judy shows you how to do this with pipe cleaners, wrapping around or gauze, creating height, right? She shows you all these step-by-steps how to do that if you think that you would like to do a composition that has this sort of degree of three-dimensional quality. This is going to be the, I was going to say it's going to be a good book for you. It is going to be the book for you. If you're interested in doing three-dimensional effects with your rug hooking, this is going to be the book for you. And she shows you how to do the trapunto and all of it, padding the back to give your piece height, padding it usually with the batting or with a flat, like sort of padded These are all quilting kinds of things. It's like a flannelly fluff that's like padded but doesn't come apart. Lots of different things that they're using to achieve these effects in the book. And it's all around successful on all of these compositions. So super fun book. I really highly recommend it. It's a great book to look at somebody else's pieces. This is like a walk through a gallery. But again, in terms of learning new techniques, if you are someone who is interested in doing something that's a bit more mixed than traditional rug hooking with more techniques and ideas in it, then this is really going to be the groundbreaking book for you. I have yet to see a book that shows this many different techniques and how to do it. You often see things that people come up with and you think, how do they do that? Well, they're never going to tell you. Well, Judy always tells you. You know, she's telling you exactly how Sharon did this. And they both seem like such lovely people. Highly recommend. So, anyway, we are there with our time. I will be back. I will be back tomorrow. We'll keep this week. You know what? Let's do a flip. Let's do a flipperoonie. I'll post it in the Facebook group. I want to start doing coffee time Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then do our Zoom call on Thursday, and then our cocktail night on Friday. And the reason I want to do that is because I always feel like when we stop on Wednesday, it stops the continuity of coffee time, and then I have to come back for one more morning on Thursday. So why don't we say coffee time tomorrow, same time, same place, Ribbon Candy Hooking Channel on YouTube, noon Eastern Standard Time. And then on Thursday, we will have our Zoom call. And so tomorrow afternoon, I will post the Zoom information in there. But I will join you for coffee time tomorrow at noon. In the meantime, have a great day. It was great seeing you all back. I am back. I will be back with you tomorrow, maybe to talk about natural dyeing or something completely different. Until then, have a great day. See you later.